Professor Monty. Let's learn the principle of square roots. Essentially what this principle says is if I have something squared equals some number, I can take the square root of both sides, and as long as I say plus or minus, then I'm going to get two answers. I'm going to get the two answers that work. So I've written it as x equals plus or minus the square root of a. Remember, that means x equals the negative square root of a or x equals the positive square root of a. I get two possible answers. Let me show you some examples. So I've got x squared equals 49. Now, with x squared equals 49, what this principle says is I can take the square root of both sides, just say plus or minus so I don't lose an answer. The square root of x squared is x, plus or minus, well, the square root of 49 is 7, so I get two answers. And remember, that means x equals negative 7 or x equals 7. Most teachers will let you put the answer that way. Some want it this way, so they know you know there's two different answers. And if you're wondering why this plus or minus, remember the square root of x squared is really the absolute value of x. And if the absolute value of x equals 7, well, x could have been negative 7 or positive 7. Notice both of these answers will work if I plug them in. Negative 7 squared, negative 7 times negative 7 is positive 49, as is 7 times 7. All right, let's see how we're going to use this in some problems. So here's a problem. Usually when I have an x squared, I have a quadratic. I want to set it equal to 0 so I can factor. Well, if I have an x squared but no x term, I can use this property. I want to get the x squared by itself first. So we'll subtract 10. 2x squared equals negative 10. We'll divide by 2. X squared equals negative 5. And then I'm going to use the square root property. I can take the square root as long as I say plus or minus on this side. So x equals, well, remember, a negative inside a square root is just an I. So I'm going to say, oh, it's plus or minus. I'll pull out the I. I don't know the square root of 5, so I'll leave it as the square root of 5. And that's my answer. Again, if you want to write it as two answers, x equals negative I root 5, and x equals positive I root 5. All right. This is another way you'll see it, and this is where we're leading to now. This is going to lead us into what we're going to do the rest of the chapter. So I can write away. I'll leave that there so we see the original problem. I'm going to take the square root of both sides. As soon as we get this whole side to be something squared, I'm going to use the square root property. So again, this just changes x minus 3 equals plus or minus, well, that's 4. And so notice what happens. I have x minus 3 equals negative 4, or x minus 3 equals positive 4. And then I just solve each of those independently. Plus 3, x equals negative 1, plus 3, x equals 7. And so again, I get two answers, and that's what the property of square roots, or the principle of square roots, says. You can take the square root of each side, just remember to say plus or minus to get both answers.